Okay, so now it's time to start modeling these objects using 3ds Max's polygonal modeling tools. So I'm going to begin with the very first shape that we created in the last tutorial, so I'm going to hide everything else but that. I'm also going to hide some of the image planes that we don't need to see in order to model this first object. Now in order to get to the sub-objects that make up this cylinder, the polygons, the edges, the vertices, in 3ds Max you have to apply an editable poly or an editable mesh modifier or convert the object to an editable poly or an editable mesh. Working with the editable mesh, you're restricted to working with just triangular faces. So a quad or a four-sided face with an editable mesh is made up of two connected triangular faces. Editable poly allows you to work with both triangles and quads, and I'm going to suggest that you always work with editable poly. So I can access those sub-objects by doing two things. I can go to the Modify panel, and I can add the Edit Poly modifier, or I can simply right-click over the object and choose Convert to Editable Poly. Now you can see that added the Editable Poly modifier to this cylinder, and this has a triangle to the left to let you know that there are options beneath this modifier. So if I click on that triangle, I can get access to all of the sub-objects that make up this object. The vertex, which are the points that lie at the intersection of any two edges. The edges, which connect any two vertices. Borders, which make up the boundary of any open areas on your model. Polygons, which are closed sequences of three or more edges connected by a surface. So that would be one polygon, that's another, that's another. And then element, which will allow you to select contiguous collections of polygons, and we'll get to that later in the course. These sub-object selections also correspond to the number keys on your keyboard. So 1 will bring you to the vertex selection, 2 edge, 3 border, 4 polygon, and 5 element. So when you change sub-object selections on the editable poly modifier, the operations in the menu beneath it will change as well. So we'll start with vertex. So if I select one vertex on the model, I can grow that selection to select all the vertices surrounding it. So if I, for example, select the middle vertex here and grow, it will select the next row of vertices. I can shrink to reduce the rows of vertices. So with vertex selected, I have the edit vertices set of operations. If I switch to edges, you'll see that will switch to edit edges. When you're working with edges, you can double click on one edge to get the loop. You can also select an edge and use the button to get the loop. You can select an edge and then click on the button to get the ring. So the loop would be the contiguous edges connecting it from the end of each edge to the end of the subsequent edges. The ring are the parallel selection of edges. So the ring would go in this direction, the loop would go in that direction. Again, I can grow or shrink my selection. And again, you see that the menu choices change depending on which sub-object selection I have active at the time. And we'll get to a lot of these as we work. I also want to bring your attention to the modeling ribbon up here. Click on modeling and then polygon modeling. You can see I'll get a lot of the same tools and operations that I have here in my modify panel I can get to on the ribbon. And I'll try to use these interchangeably as I work, so you can decide which ones you find to be more conducive to faster and easier modeling for you. A lot of the same menu operations and choices are going to be available on these different selections. So I can grow and shrink here under modify selection. I can change my sub-object selection in the polygon modeling tab. So I'll use these interchangeably as I go through these tutorials. You're welcome to use one or both as you see fit. Everyone develops their own separate technique and workflow, and you can experiment with the best way to go about this, but just be aware that many of the same menu operations and tools that are available on the editable poly modifier in the modify panel are also available here on the modeling ribbon. So for this first object, I'm largely going to be scaling and moving these sub-objects to shape the model. For the object that I tackle next, I'll be working with some of the other tools and operations like extruding and cutting. But for now, I just want to start to scale down some of these edge loops to match the shape of this object that I see in my reference images. So I'll go into my side view for this, and again, Alt-X is the hotkey to see through the object. So I'll switch my sub-object selection to edges. So select this edge loop here, scale it down in the X and the Y. Here I'm going to select the last two rows of edges, scale them out a bit. And I don't need the polygons in the back of this object because I'm going to model it to create the outer section here. So I'm going to change my subobject selection to polygons, go into my side view, drag over this last row. To deselect objects or subobjects in 3ds Max with the My Interaction mode, I simply hold down Control and drag over the elements that I want to deselect, and now I'm just deleting the polygons in the back here. Delete on my keyboard to delete those. And then I'll just continue shaping this model until it matches the object that I see in my reference images and in the pictures that I took of the headphones. So now you can see that I've continued to move the polygons and edge loops, scale them, until I match the shape and the configuration that I see in my reference images. So I have the basic shape here, I have the indentation, and each of the edge loops corresponds with the different levels and the different sections that make up this object on the headphones.